Sup guys, Fat Archon here, bringing another arm review video. Today we're going over one of the newest factions, Leagues of Votann, aka the Space Dwarves. Yeah, so these guys is index, so I've done a lot of army reviews. I've read through most of the indexes now. Unfortunately, can't really sugarcoat it. These guys got some pretty big issues going on. I like literally just wrapped up my review on the Gene Stealer cult, for example. Check it out if you haven't already. And the power level difference between them and these guys it's almost like they're playing different editions. It's pretty damn wide, to be real with you all. I was thinking about it before this video, and I was thinking these guys they're like priced like an elite army, but they have the profiles of like a horde army. Almost across the entire board, they're hitting on 4s. They literally have 0 ways of re-rolling hits. I don't recall seeing a single way to re-roll hits. They do have ways to like re-roll wounds at least, so you got that. But an army that hits on 4s, that's relatively expensive, with no re-roll support, like, you're really going to struggle. What really hurts in that sense is, like, you can't get the consistency. You can't, like, ensure that most of your hits are going to, like, actually land. Instead, you got to, like, hope that the dice agree with you. Definitely going to hurt there. Again, the profiles are kind of overpriced. They got a slight buff in going to T5 across the board. But we mentioned this, like, in the Death Guard review, we mentioned this, how every army and every, like, tough profile in the game, especially vehicles, got boosted a whole lot. So that whole +1 toughness really isn't much in the scheme of things. They also don't have the best armor saves. They don't have that much access to involves. So a lot of stinkers going on. I hate having to be, like, negative about this for an army. I, like, especially feel bad for anybody who, like, picked up Votann recently and were hoping to get in the competitive scene. Now, don't get me wrong, for, like, Garage Hammer or, like, casual games, yeah, dude, you'll do just fine. Seriously, don't worry too much about your army. Like, if your friend plays a, like, hyper-efficient or, like, one of the broken armies, like, maybe talk to him before the game and, you know, handicap him or something. But for the most part, yes, you 100%, 100,000% can still win games, and it's debatable for you're like the worst book or whatever, you can still beat other armies like pretty handily, I'd say. Death Guard will probably struggle versus you. Unfortunately, though, like, overall, can't be that positive about the book, not when there's, like, such obvious issues going on. Hopefully GW gets around to fixing them sooner than later. I think even just, like, across the board, points cuts would go a long way in making these guys better. Hopefully it's not, like, a permanent ordeal, and hopefully you don't have to wait until the Codex. For army rules, Eye of the Ancestors. So, I'm not sure how I feel about this one. Basically, anytime one of your units dies, the unit that killed that said unit, you get to put a grudge token on them, or a judgment token on them. One token lets you add 1 to your hit rolls, so that's fantastic. You have bad ballistic skill across the board, this helps shore that up. If you manage to get 2 of them on there, then that's actually pretty great. All of a sudden you get +1 to hit and +1 to wound. The +1 to wound is extra valuable as well, because another thing that these guys struggle with, they really don't have that much anti-tank, especially at range. So anything that helps shore that up, extremely valuable for these guys. I don't like it. I never like any abilities that require you to die first or, like, get hurt first, because, yeah, obviously, you don't want to die. There might be times where you don't get one of your tokens until, like, turn 3 or something, because you're a smart general and you're keeping your guys from dying. That's really gonna hurt. And honestly, like, you're gonna want certain units to die. That's kind of, like, silly. You're, like, throwing away points at that. So not the greatest thing ever. That said, it does shore up your biggest weaknesses, so when you can take advantage of it, that's great. Also, you do have plenty of ways to, like, throw out those judgment tokens, so it's not like you're only relying on dying, but again, as, like, the army rule, could be a little better. For detachment rule, you got Ruthless Efficiency. This one's actually kind of cool. I like this one a decent bit. So at the start of the battle, you choose one of the enemy's units, and they start the battle with 2 judgment tokens on them. So already that's pretty cool. You're, like, helping your big hitters, helping ensure that they get the most damage that they can through, which is vital when you're not hitting that well most of the time. Also, too, if you destroy the unit by a certain time, you gain command points. This is 10th edition. Command points are gold. So any way that you can get those, extra valuable to have. You can get a boatload if you manage to do it early enough. I also like, too, that, like, you'll be able to mess with your opponent, put on somebody that, like, important. So, like, if I was playing my CSM and you put on my Possessed, I'd have to think long and hard, like, ooh, do I really want to rush them in there and give this guy a potential 3 command points? Speaking of which, so if you destroy a unit by the 1st or 2nd of your command phases, you get 3 command points, so that'd be fantastic if and when that happens. If you do it by the 3rd or 4th command phase, some more realistic, you get 2 command points. And then if you do it in the last turn, 5th command phase, you'd only get one command point. Hey, anything's valuable. I will say, like, getting it really early is going to be pretty rare, but you do have the option to throw in some flimsy unit, maybe infiltrators or something like that, and maybe you'll have a pretty decent chance of killing them. Or again, at the very least, you'll, like, mess with your opponent's game plan, because he has to think through, do I really want to risk losing these guys and giving this guy such a huge advantage? Because 3 command points, pretty big deal. I will say, though, not the best stratagems in the world. They got a couple good ones. They do have a couple good ones, but for the most part, these aren't the best. To start off with, you got Warrior Pride. So this is a fight phase only. You choose one of your units that was just attacked by an enemy in engagement range that has a judgment token on them. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in your unit makes a melee attack that targets that enemy, you improve the AP by 1 for each token they got on them. So if this is like the person that you targeted with your detachment ability, all of a sudden you get +2 AP, which is very valuable. And even if they just have 1 token on them, that's just, you know, an extra AP for 1 CP. That's a fair price. I will say you don't have the most melee units in this army. You got a couple options, or like a few options to choose from. So it won't be the most useful or like the most used stratagem that you got. But if you can get 2 AP for 1 command point, yeah, I would take that most times. So definitely try to remember you got it there. Next up, we got Ordered Retreat. So this is in your movement phase, just after one of your units falls back. Basically, until the end of the turn, you can shoot and charge after falling back. So that's good to have. It's not like the most like flashy stratagem ever, but there will be times when that comes in handy. Maybe some chaff charge you, and you really wanted to get to, you know, get over that objective and then shoot this unit or whatever. Suddenly you got it there. So good to have, not something you always use. Next up, you got Ancestral Sentence. So this is your shooting phase. You get to choose any one of your units. This is one of the best ones. This is the one you'll probably want to use like most of the time. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in your unit makes an attack, you get Sustain Hits 1. If they happen to have a Judgment token on them, you get Sustain Hits 2. I believe I mentioned this in some of my earlier videos, but Sustain Hits 1 is essentially, for most armies, it's like a +1 to hit. So all of a sudden, you're helped shoring up that crappy ballistic skill. Super duper valuable to have. And if you happen to have a Judgment token on them, Sustain Hits 2, like, okay, that's pretty strong. I would probably use that every single time if I'm reaching out with a strong, like, range unit. Definitely like that one. Definitely remember you got it. Next up, you got Reactive Reprisals. So this is an expensive one. It's 2 CP, but it's actually pretty alright. In your opponent's shooting phase, just after an enemy unit with a Judgment token makes an attack on one of your units, the unit that was just targeted, they get to shoot back, basically. It sucks that it's 2 CP. That is really expensive. Granted, if you get, like, your detachment ability off and you manage to be, like, swimming in command points or whatever, that will be a really, really good one to have, especially if they're targeting, like, a valuable or strong shooting unit. So I do like that a fair bit. They do have to have the Judgment token on them. Also, too, I do wonder if you still get to attack even if they kill you. I'm not sure. Somebody pitch in the comments. Let me know what you think, because it does say, like, after the enemy unit resolves its attacks, if you're dead, do you still get to use a stratagem? Probably not. But that would be interesting if you could. Either way, kind of spendy, so I don't think I'll use it that much, but there will be times when that'll be pretty clutch. So again, remember you got it. Next up, you got Newfound Nemesis. So this is in your opponent's shooting or fight phase. Just after they attack, you choose one infantry or one mounted that gets knocked to below half strength as a result of those attacks. The attacking unit gains 1 Judgment token. If your Warlord happens to be in that unit, they get 2 Judgment tokens. This one's, meh. Kind of stinks. I do not like abilities that make you take damage first, so it kind of sucks there that you have to take it. I will say, like, at the very least, it lets you do, like, something, even though you just took a boatload of damage. Hopefully, too, your Warlord's unit didn't just get wiped down to half. But again, you do get to put 2 Judgment tokens out there, so kind of valuable. There will be times, if it's an important unit that just did that, like, yeah, you'll probably use that. Maybe it's not as bad as I think, but I just really, really don't like when I have to take damage first. It takes away, like, your ability to choose when to use it. Your opponent is basically deciding if and when you can use it. So the last one, this one is really good. This is one you should use a lot of the time. Void Armor. So this goes off in your opponent's shooting or fight phase. Basically, any unit in your army, you get -1 AP on those attacks. That is super duper good. You guys are kind of flimsy. You don't have that much access to invols, and even your normal saves, for the most part, are just mediocre or just like average or whatever. So that'll definitely help a bit. Throw on the cover and whatever other little shenanigans you got. Like, yeah, I like that a fair bit. Definitely one that you'll use like most, if not every time. Next up, we got Enhancements. Most of these are pretty mediocre, to be honest. One of them's, like, completely broken, like, literally broken. Speaking of which, so, Appraising Glare. In your command phase, you can choose one objective marker your opponent controls until the end of your command phase. While an enemy unit is within range of that objective marker, you count them as though they have one additional judgment token on them. Should be pretty clear why that's broken. You can't really hurt stuff in your command phase very often. I will say, like, if I was a TO and I was running a tournament, I would totally house rule this, so I worked until the end of the turn. Should be pretty obvious, like, what the intention was. Same for casual games. If you're playing with your buddy, like, 100%, man, let them use them until the end of the turn. That otherwise, it's just like it's a dead enhancement. So, good work, GW. For next one, you got a long list. Each time the bearer's unit destroys an enemy unit, if they had a judgment token on them, you can transfer that token to another visible unit. That's actually pretty decent. It gives you the ability to, like, you know, keep your army rule going. Very vital to have. We mentioned how you need that +1 to hit. Like, it's kind of, like, super important for you. So, this one's alright. I will say, I forget the cost. I want to say it's pretty cheap, like 10 points, 15 points. So really not bad cost. So there is definitely a temptation to bring that along, at least if you got a few points left over. Next up, we got Grim Demeanor. You can reroll Battle Shocks, woo, and you can ignore any or all modifiers to your characteristics and or any rolls or tests made for that unit, excluding saving throws. I mean, you do have issues with your ballistic skill, so armies with, like, -1 to hit, you are gonna hate them for sure. This would help, like, make up for that. That said, like, the Battle Shock thing is kind of lame. Granted, like, even Uthar or whatever, he only has a leadership 7 for some reason. So, you know, maybe that does have some value there. Then again, even if you, like, did fail the Battle Shock test, is it always gonna matter? It's debatable. The whole ignoring modifiers, like, that is cool. Even if you do fail the Battle Shock, that means that you will still have objective control. So there's a little bit of value there. Let's see how many points that one is. 20 points. Yeah, I'm not sure that's worth the 20. Probably skip it. Last up, you got Wayfarer's Grace. So, the first time the bearer is destroyed, you place your judgment token, and then you roll a d6, and on a 2-up, you get up at the end of the phase with your full wounds remaining. That's actually pretty good. Your guy, like I mentioned in the very beginning, your models are kind of spendy for what you're getting, so this does shore up that, like, points efficiency a whole bunch. A near guaranteed, or, like, very high odds of getting your guy back to life. I will say, at that point, like, he's going to be all on his own and super exposed. It is end of phase, so, like, if it's fight phase, okay, you'll make it into your turn, but otherwise, it's okay. Let's see how many points that one is. 25 points. It's not terrible to get the better efficiency, but it's not the best thing ever. So, hopefully it's kind of clear, but the rules are kind of just, like, average to mediocre at best. None of those really stood out to me as, like, oh my gosh, you gotta bring that. So, kind of unfortunate. Hopefully when the Codex drops, they get a little more spunk to them, but for now, yeah, you work with what you got. For data sheets, alright, so first up we got Uthar, destined for the shelf. Alright, he's not that bad, but he's really not the best either. He's 115 points, so he's the most expensive character. He's got a pretty standard profile, so 5-inch move, kind of slow. T5, 3-up save and a 4-up invul, not so bad. 5 wounds, also not so bad. 7 leadership, like this guy's the leader of your faction. Kind of surprised he has 7 leadership, but it's not that important. He doesn't have the best weaponry, so range is kind of mediocre. He's got a Vulcanite Disintegrator. It does have devastating wounds, but it's only 18-inch range, 3 attacks, hit on 2s, strength 5, 0 AP, and 1 damage. So even if you, like, boosted the AP or whatever, you're still not really doing much. Maybe do, like, 1 mortal wound every now and then. Melee, though, he's a little better in melee. He's got Blade of the Ancestors, so devastating wounds, 5 attacks, hitting on 2s, strength 6, pretty good, minus 3 AP, that's great, 2 damage each. So yeah, he'll slice through some Marines and infantry pretty well. Not the best ever for 115 points, but at least he does, you know, have a little bit of melee. For abilities, so him and the Call, they both got Grim Efficiency, so once per battle round, in your command phase, you can choose one model with this ability from your army, so even if you had both, you can only choose one of them, and basically you get to put a judgment token on one visible unit. That's kind of like vital for your army. Now, whether you use Uthar for that is kind of questionable, but it's definitely something you're going to want, definitely something you can use literally every single battle round. I mean, it's your army ability, so yeah, get some use out of that. On top of that, he's got Ancestral Fortune. So once per turn, you can change one hit roll, wound roll, or damage roll for some reason into an auto 6. The damage one is silly because he doesn't have any d6 damage weaponry, unfortunately. That said, you can get an automatic hit, or actually where I kind of like that is in melee, you can get an automatic two mortal wounds if you use it on your dev wound profile. So, you know, that's kind of nice to have. His other ability is going to be the Destined. I actually like this one a fair bit. Each time attack has located this guy, you change the damage characteristic to 1. So that'll be especially good versus like snipers, or if his unit does get wiped out and it's just down to him, he's near guaranteed to take, well, he is guaranteed to take 5 different hits. So that's pretty decent there. That said, at the 115 points, I still think the call is like superior, to be honest. So I don't think you really bring this guy too often. He does have one other thing. He's got the War Gear Rampart Crest. So while he's leading the unit, every model in that unit gets a 5-up invul. So that does have some value to him. He can be attached to Hearthguard, and they don't normally have an invul unless you give him well, actually, no, the entire unit doesn't have an invul. You can get one of them, some through a War Gear. So that's kind of useful. Also, you can put him with Hearthkin Warriors, so that'll make him more resilient. So a little bit of value there. Overall, again, I think you just take a call over this guy. He's too spendy, doesn't really bring that much to the unit, doesn't really boost him like that much at all. Yeah, he's kind of selfish. He gives him an invul, that's like the only thing. And then he has like okay melee. Honestly, I don't think he's trash by any means, but I don't think he's your first choice. Save him for like the fluffy games or whatever. Honestly, I think he kind of goes D. He goes pretty low. Speaking of call, so, like I sort of hinted at, this guy seems way better than Uthar. Maybe not way better, but he seems better. So, similar profile, T5, 3-up save, 4-up invul, only 4 wounds, but whatever. He does come with either a Combi Bolter or the Vulcanite Disintegrator. Combi Bolter doesn't have rapid fire, but it does always have 4 attacks, 24-inch range, hitting on 2s, strength 4, no AP, 1 damage, so whatever. Vulcanite, on the other hand, so it has dev wounds, only 18-inch range, 3 attacks, hit on 2s, strength 5, no AP, 1 damage, same as Uthar, really not the best range output at all. For melee, though, he gets a little better in melee, so you got a choice between the Plasma Axe or the Mass Gauntlet. The Axe is going to be 4 attacks, hit on 2s, strength 5, minus 2, 2 damage each, so it's okay, you'll kill a Marine or 2 with that. Mass Gauntlet, on the other hand, only 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, strength 8, minus 2, 3 damage each. Getting 3 damage, pretty valuable to have. You think, too, if they have a token on them, you will go back to hitting on 2s, so actually it's still pretty accurate. I do think I'd choose that one most of the time, mostly for the strength 8 and that 3 damage. I do like it a fair bit. He can be attached to the same units as Uthar, so Hearthguard or Warriors. I do think he works best with Hearthguard, mostly because of the War Gear he's going to have. As for abilities, so Kindred Hero. So while it's in a unit, all their weapons get lethal hits. That kind of has a little bit of anti-synergy going with it. So anything with like devastating wounds or that sort of stuff, or like reroll wound abilities, which you do have access to, kind of doesn't let you take advantage of that. That said, I would still take it, especially if you're using the stratagem to get sustained hits as well. That way you kind of get the best of both worlds. That is actually a really powerful like combo right there, a really good combo right there. And again, it helps you get your helps get your efficiency. I will always take like, you know, consistent damage output over a lot of other stuff, so not too bad. His other ability, Grim Efficiency, so just like before, he can choose to put a token on somebody that he can see each battle round, so pretty good to have. You're going to use that every single time. I do think that sort of makes him an auto-include. At least one of these guys, maybe even 2, maybe even 3, to be honest. I do like that a fair bit. For War Gear, he's got Rampart Crest, so if you give him that one, he can give the entire unit he's leading a 5-up invul. That is pretty valuable. If you attach him with like Hearthguard, for example, they don't normally get that invul, so all of a sudden you can do that and still get the Deep Strike for everybody, depending on the War Gear choices. His other option is going to be Teleport Crest. So while he's leading the unit, the entire unit gets Deep Strike. Also pretty good, depending on how you do the loadouts and what unit you attach him to. I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but he's only 90 points, so quite a bit cheaper than Uthar, and quite a bit better. One is an auto-include. Beyond that, it is questionable. Truthfully, though, I think you need him, like, no matter what, so I will put him in S tier. His profile and whatnot, like, maybe he really belongs in A+ tier, maybe even just A, but I do think, again, you bring him every single list, take advantage of those tokens. Alright, next up we got the Einhyr Champion. So just like the melee dude, he can only go with Hearthguard. He has a pretty good profile though, and he's also really cheap. He's only 75 points, so I actually really like his profile for the cost. It's going to be only 5-inch move, of course. T6 though, which is pretty good. 2-up save, which is fantastic, and 5 wounds, so like boosted across the board. I like that a fair bit. No invul, but a 2-up save does help shore that up. And you do have the option to give him an invul if you'd like. Range weapons, I just got the same combi bolter as before. Not the best thing ever. It does hit on 2s, but no AP, so, you know, you'll get lucky if you get a few wounds through. Now, melee, though, so you got 2 options. You got the Darkstar Axe or the Mass Hammer. The Axe is going to be 6 attacks, hit on 2s, strength 6, minus 2 AP, 2 damage each. So, again, a Marine killer, like infantry killer. Not too bad for clearing out a few models. The other option, the one personally I think I'd probably go with, is going to be Mass Hammer. 3 attacks, hitting on 3s without a token. Strength 12, minus 2, d6 plus 1 damage. You really don't have that much access to like high damage weaponry, and especially like strength 12 weaponry. There's not that much in the book, so being able to bring that in, I do like it a bit. It sucks that it's only 3 attacks. Sucks that it's normally hitting on 3s. Again, though, you can have a token, so there's ways to boost that. So I do think that's worth. That's probably the route to go. For abilities, you got 2 of them. So, Exemplar of the Einhyr. While he's leading a unit, you can reroll charge rolls made for the unit. That's, you know, it's okay. Hearthguard are pretty decent in melee, so, like, that does have some value to it. Especially, too, if you're going for the deep strike and the 9-inch charge, as, like, rough as that might be. So, there is some value there. The other ability has Mass Driver Accelerator. Long story short, you end a charge on a 2, and then you roll a dice. On a 2 to 5, you do D3 mortal wounds. On a 6, you do D3 plus 3 mortal wounds. Yeah, not the best ever. 2 to 5, so most of the time you do like 1 to 2 mortal wounds, which is a little better. That said, when you roll a 6, you'll like that a lot. For war gear, so you got 2 choices. You got the Teleport Crest, so you can give everybody Deep Strike, or you can go Weave Field Crest, which gives just him a 4-up invul. It's debatable which way you go. If you're attaching with the Hearthguard, if you're even bringing him, period. I do kind of think you go with the invul, because there's ways to give him the Deep Strike otherwise, and I do think that has some value, especially with his 2-up save. 75 points, super cheap. I like his boosted profile a lot. I like his damage a lot. I don't think by any means he's like an auto-include or anything like that. I think he's just like solid all around, for Votann at least. Yeah, he's just like a solid all around character. Pretty cheap, I do like that. So, yeah, put him in B tier. Alright, Grimnir. This guy kind of sucks. Yeah, I'll be real. I'm not too sure about this guy. So, basic profile, T5, 4-up save, and a 4-up invul, so that's okay. 4 wounds, and you got 2 corvs with you, so in a sense, it's like 6 wounds, which I guess, you know, for 75 points, that's not terrible. He does have 6-up leadership, so hey, better than leader of the faction. For range weapons, they don't have that much. They got the bolter, just a regular bolter, no rapid fire, unfortunately, but does always have 2 shots. And then Grimnir himself, he has Ancestral Wrath. So if you do the focused profile, it's going to be 6 attacks. If you do unfocused, it'll be 3 attacks. They do hit on 2s, which is pretty good. Strength 6, minus 2 AP, D3 damage each. So actually, if you think about it, like, that's some of the better damage for one of these characters at only 75 points. Like, yes, it's variable and whatnot, but still, it's multi-damage, hit on 2s that you're able to throw out pretty decent range. So that's actually not that bad. Melee kind of sucks. He does have Ancestral Ward Stave, so it is a psychic attack, just like the Ancestral Wraith. So that kind of sucks. That means Anti-Psyker is going to, you know, target you a bit easier. Only 1 attack, hit on 3s, strength 7, minus 1, D3 damage each. Really not that good. Only a single attack. Yeah, you don't really want to get this guy in melee. For abilities, they kind of suck. So, he's got Fortify. By the way, he can only be attached to the warriors, so your basic troops. And basically, he can give them +1 toughness across the entire unit. Like we mentioned in the beginning, like, every army got most of the units boosted in their toughness, so it's really not that valuable. It will come in handy from time to time. It's sort of like a -1 to wound. That said, are the warriors that good a unit? I guess we'll come and find out. His other ability is going to be Grimnir's Regard. Once per battle, after the unit he's in fails a battle shock, you can cancel it, and so you did pass the battle shock. That's pretty bad. Nobody cares about Battle Shock that much. You got multiple ways around it. This guy's also 6-up leadership, so like chances are you should pass it anyways. Really not the best ever. Yeah. I mean, he has an okay amount of damage output, but everything else about him kind of sucks. I do like getting the 6 wounds for only 75 points. Like, not the worst thing ever. But otherwise, truthfully, I think he's just like C. He's not horrible. His shooting, his Ancestral Wraith will do like a decent amount of damage, but I think you have other better choices that you go for first. So, yeah, he just goes in C tier. Alright, and lastly, we got Broker Ironmaster. I actually like this guy a boatload. So he's only 75 points, and it's a 4 model character unit. So he's gonna have 4 wounds. His assistant will have 2, and he has 2 ecogs with 1 wound each. So that's what? That's 8 wounds in a 75 point model. That's great. He does only have a 4-up save, and there's no invul, so he's slightly flimsy, but you got those other models to take the wounds first. That's kind of nice to have. For ranged weapons, so he himself has the Graviton rifle, so this is anti-vehicle 2-up, which is great. You get some anti-vehicle in the list. Only 18-inch range, but 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, strength 5, -1, 3 damage each, so that's actually really damn good on a 75-point model. You get him within range of a vehicle, like, yeah, he should be able to chip some wounds off him. Remember, too, if you get the token down, chances are he should be hitting on 2s at that point. You can also bring a las cutter, but it's just cute. You don't really care about that. 6-inch range, 1 attack, hit on 4s, strength 6, -3 AP, which is pretty good, but only single damage. Not even sure why I brought it up, but it's there. For melee, so he's got the Graviton Hammer, which is also pretty good. Anti-vehicle 2-up again, so I'm seeing a theme here. 3 attacks, hit on 4s, strength 9, unfortunately, -1 damage, but -1 AP, but 3 damage each. So it's okay. Wish I got to the strength 10, but then again, you got the anti-vehicle 2-up, so that's good. It's just the monsters he might struggle with. For abilities, so this is where he kind of pops. Multispectral Visor. Basically, while he's leading a unit, they all get +1 to the range attacks. This guy can be attached to Thunderkin as well, which are kind of like your Devastators, or Warriors. You can only choose those two. So I actually like that a lot. Like, yes, it's sort of anti-synergy again with the whole tossing out the tokens. You won't be able to stack those +1s to hit unless the enemy has like a -1 to hit, in which case that does have a little bit of value because then you negate the -1. But for the most part, like, they don't stack. That said, not every unit's going to have that on them, especially if you got a clever opponent. He's like hiding his valuable units. It doesn't matter. I'm still getting +1 to hit on you. I do think that's, like, especially for this army where they normally hit on 4s, I think that's ultra valuable, to be honest. And again, this guy's only 75 points. He's tied for the cheapest character. I do like that a good bit. His other abilities, so Broker's Guild. At the end of your movement phase, you can repair either a vehicle or an exoframe model. Within 3 inches of them, you can repair up to D3. If you attach him with a Thunderkin, which I think is like the way to go with this guy, you'll be able to repair one of them. I believe they have 3 wounds each. Let's double check. We're skipping ahead. Okay, they do have 3 wounds each, so I do like that a fair bit. That helps you, like, make sure you get your points efficiency out of them. Yeah, I super duper like this guy. If I was running Votann, I would bring him probably every single time. I think I do put him above the call, like, overall. I think a single call arguably would go above, but overall, I think you bring multiples of this guy and maybe just one of this guy. I just like them all together. 4 models as well, like, that's pretty awesome. Pretty cool model there. Alright, now, on to the troops. Hearthguard Warriors. These are your battle line, so pretty basic profile. 5-inch move, of course. T5, 4-up save, no invul, only a single wound, but 2 objective control. They got a bunch of loadout options. I will say it kind of stinks, so you can bring up to 2 heavy weapons. Also, they're locked at a 10-man, which also stinks. It'd be cool if you bring a 5-man, or still bring a 20-man, especially. But for each squad, you can bring 2 heavy weapons, and you can't have any duplicates. You have to choose 1 of each. You got a bunch of different options. Some of the more interesting ones, so of course you got the Magna Rail Rifle. I do think a lot of people are going to be tempted to bring that just for, like, the strength and the cool factor, of course. So it is devastating wounds and heavy, which is important. You're going to need that. 18-inch range, so wish it was a little longer, but whatever. Only a single shot, hitting on 5s. Strength 12, -3 AP, D3 +3 damage, though. So this is like one of your higher damage weapons that you have, like, any access to. Sucks that it hits on 5s. Really sucks it's only a single shot. You can boost it up to, hitting on 4s. You can get the sustained hits, which you would want to use in that scenario. So, there's kind of some ways, like, help mitigate it, but it's really not the best. You kind of still need it, though, because you don't have that much anti-tank or anti-knight. So, yeah, kind of a tough choice. Another option I like a lot is going to be the missile launcher, the L7 missile launcher. So the blast profile is pretty basic, so it's blast, which is great. If you're against Gene Stealer Cult or something, you can blast a few models there. 24-inch range, D6 attacks, hitting on 4s, strength 4, no AP and 1 damage each. So not the best ever, but again, if you got some chaff you can shoot at, it's pretty decent. It also has a focused one, so this is sort of like anti-elite, sort of anti-vehicle. Same 24-inch range, only a single shot, still hit on 4s, strength 9, which was Massive Strength 10, minus 2 AP, D6 damage, so it's alright. Beyond that, you can bring like Plasma Beamer, which is actually okay. It's got sustain hits, D3, 18-inch range, only a single attack, hitting on 4s again. By the way, everybody hits on 4s, by the way. So, Strength 8, minus 3 AP, which is really good. And remember, you can get that up to minus 4. You can even get to minus 5 AP in certain cases, which is pretty wild. 2 damage each. Yeah, so they got a bunch of options. The thing is, the ballistic skill is so bad. And these guys, by the way, I didn't mention, they're 135 points, so they're kind of expensive for how flimsy they are. Their melee is terrible. Do not get them in melee. That's the last thing you want to do. Otherwise, they'll got Uthar pattern bolters. These are just completely standard bolters. I don't know why they don't have like something special. Like give them an extra shot, give them 1 AP, something like that. Otherwise, it's just like a standard bolter. So 24-inch range, 2 attacks, no rapid fire, hitting on 4s. I keep mentioning that. Strength 4, no AP, 1 damage. So not the best damage output. The special weapons are like cool and they're fun to bring, but not the best. Their ability though, I do like the ability. So luck has, need keeps, toil earns. Basically they get sticky objectives. I always rate sticky objectives like pretty highly. You do have a way to combat squad these guys by putting them in the transport, so that is cool. You can have 2 separate little like 5-man squads to go out and hopefully take two objectives. Also 2 that plays in again your tokens, because honestly these are like the sacrificial lambs. I would think, like, I almost feel like that's like why you bring them as sacrificial lambs. Like you purposely combat squad them and then you purposely run them up the board towards an objective and hope that they die right after they take an objective. So kind of silly there. They do have a bunch of war gear. I'm pretty sure you can bring all 3 of them. Let's check. Yeah, you bring all the war gear, so of course you would every time. That does give them a 6 up, feel no pain, so, you know, it's better than nothing. You do ignore cover. I like ignore cover a lot. It took a while to realize like how important that is, but that's essentially, in many cases, that's basically the same as plus 1 AP. With how ubiquitous cover is in 10th edition, how easy it is to get, yeah, I actually like that a whole lot. And last, you can get the comms array, so if you spend a stratagem on these guys, not sure how often you will, but if you did, you get 1 CP back on a 5-up, so not the worst thing ever, good to have. Oh yeah, I should mention too, the leader gets a Weave Field Crest, so the leader can get a 4-up invul. Meh. Really wish these guys were better. They're not terrible at all, but they're not good at all either. Like I said, you consider using them as like sacrificial lambs. They are kind of spendy for it, but with the combat squad, it's not like the worst thing ever. Do I put them in B or C? Honestly, I think they go in C. Would I bring them over Grimnir? I would. I do think you, like, still bring them. You just don't expect much out of them. I'd be curious what you guys think. Like, am I underselling them, or are they really, like, as bad as it kind of looks like? Alright, on to the elites. So first up we got Einhyr Hearthguard. So these guys are actually pretty good. I would argue these are one of the better units in the book. So pretty good profile, 5-inch move of course, luckily it doesn't get the Death Guard treatment. T6, which is great, 2-up save, fantastic, 2 wounds each, my goodness. So pretty good, they're basically like your Terminators. Are they as good as other Terminators? You know, but still for what you're normally used to, pretty damn good. They're kind of spendy. They're 165 points for 5 or 330 points for 10, so 33 points per model. You can compare those to like Scarab Occult Terminators, a little more expensive, but still, tidbit lacking. For weaponry, they actually got some pretty decent options, so you can choose between a plasma gun or the Vulcanite Disintegrator. It's kind of debatable which one you go for. I personally like the plasma gun better. It's only single shot, but 24-inch range, hits on 3s, which is fantastic. Strength 8, minus 3 AP, 2 damage each, so that's a pretty good like Marine killer. It really sucks that they're only 1 attack each, but remember, you can get the sustained hits if you want. That'll help a little bit. They all get grenade launchers as well, like no matter what. They get a grenade launcher on top of the other option. When you use those are going to be Blast, fantastic, 18-inch range, and whatever. D6 attacks, hit on 3s again, only strength 4, no AP, 1 damage. So that's more like your chaff clear, but it's still nice to have. I like Blast a whole lot. Anytime I see it, definitely value it kind of highly. Next up, you got the Vulcanite Disintegrator, so you can choose this or the Plasma. Again, 18-inch range, kind of short, 3 attacks though, with Dev Wounds, hits on 3s, strength 5, no AP, 1 damage. So again, that'll help with like chaff clearing. You might get a few mortal wounds through as well, so not the worst. I like the plasma one better just because of that AP. And remember, you can boost it up pretty well. Technically, you boost it up to 5 AP, which is pretty nuts. For melee, though, so default, they all come with concussion gauntlets. So these are going to be only 2 attacks. Hit on 3s, though, strength 9, minus 2 AP and 2 damage each. So not terrible at all. Great at killing infantry or elites. Then you got the option to choose either concussion hammer or the plasma blade gauntlet. I'm pretty sure you can do it on all of them. Yep, any one of them can choose any of those. So, Concussion Hammer is going to be 3 attacks, hit on 4s, unfortunately, but Strength 9, minus 1 AP, and 3 damage each. Getting 3 attacks at 3 damage is great, and remember, if they have that token on them, all of a sudden you're hitting on 3s again, so really not terrible. I do wish I had a little better AP, but can't win them all. The other option is going to be the Plasma Blade Gauntlets. Again, 3 attacks, hit on 3s, though, Strength 6, minus 2 AP, and only 1 damage. I don't really like that one. I'd either do the gauntlet or the hammer. Truthfully, probably do the hammers just so you have a heavy hitter. Getting an extra attack is valuable, especially if you have like sustain hits or whatever else you toss on there. For abilities, so they got Oathband Bodyguard. While a character is leading this unit, basically, if an attack comes in and the strength is higher than your toughness, you get -1 to wound. That plays into these guys being the toughest unit, or one of the tougher units in your army. Also, I think they look really sick. They kind of remind me of like StarCraft Marines, but really short. So not the worst data sheet ever. For war gear, you got 2 choices. You can do the teleport crest, so all the models in the unit get deep strike. That plays into if you get the call with the 5-up invul ability. Suddenly they can still have both, which is pretty good. Or you can give the leader the 4-up invul save. Let me make sure. Yeah, you choose between one of those 2. Yeah, I would probably go with the deep strike most of the time. That said, if you're not giving them a character, like there is some debate on giving them the 4-up invul, but nah, not really. Their biggest weakness is going to be the fact of how slow they are. So anything to help mitigate that. Pretty important. Also, too, you got to remember, we're playing 10th edition, so you need units that are able to get anywhere on the board at a moment's notice. Maybe you're doing, like, behind enemy lines or whatever. These guys give you the ability to do that, give you some play into that. Otherwise, Votann's really slow, so yeah, I do value the deep strike pretty highly. Truthfully, I think these guys go S tier. I think you need to bring them every time. I would bring at least like a 10-man unit in my own army, potentially even like 2 units of 10, maybe like 1 of 10, 1 of 5 or whatever. But either way, these are like the best units in your book. They got like an actual profile. Kind of spendy for what you're getting, but it's really not too terrible. Yeah, I'm gonna put them very tip top of S, I think. Definitely something you want to look at. Definitely something you should bring. Next up, we got... alright, so these are my favorite models in the book, like, at least looks and, like, theme-wise. Like, who doesn't like a bunch of, like, half-naked dwarfs running at them, slice them in half with axes, or smashing their heads like melons? You know, kind of cool look to them. That said, are they that good? Ooh, what was the price? I think it was 3 for 95, but let's make sure. Oh, no, that's right, okay. 5 for 135, so... kind of spendy, 27 points each, so you can bring 10 for 270. Kind of spendy for what you're getting, and what you're getting is going to be slow melee. So, no deep strike, 5-inch move, T5, 6-up save with a 5-up feel no pain. So, somewhat resilient. They do have 2 wounds each, which is alright. So, mainly melee, but you can bring a ranged weapon. I actually really do like their ranged weapon. For every 5 you bring, you get 1 old grenade launcher, and its profile is going to be blast, so again, we like that. Indirect fire, really like that. 24-inch range, D6 attacks, hit on 4s, strength 5, -1, 1 damage each. So not the most damage ever, but being able to have indirect, so you can hit a unit behind cover, pretty valuable. They also have an ability that's going to key off that weapon here in a moment. For melee, though, so you got a few options. You can go either Concussion Maul or Heavy Plasma Axe. Either of them have their uses. So Concussion Maul, personally, I kind of like that one. I'd be tempted to use those. It's going to be only 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, but strength 9, -2 AP, 3 damage each. So again, you're getting some 3 damage. That's pretty good. Heavy Axe, on the other hand, so it has 2 profiles. Strike is going to be 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, strength 6, -2, 2 damage each. So that's like your infantry killer. You also have a sweep profile, so 6 attacks, hitting on 3s, strength 4, -1 AP, 1 damage each. I kind of do actually like the plasma axe. Maybe you bring both. Mostly I like the axe because of that sweep profile, and that gives you a way to get rid of screens pretty easily. You know, 6 attacks for each of these guys. If you bring 10 of them, 60 freaking attacks, like, not terrible at all. You can give the leader twin concussion gauntlets. I don't think you ever should, but you could. It is twin linked, so that's helpful. 4 attacks, only hitting on 4s, strength 9, -1 AP and 2 damage each. You know, okay, maybe you do give it to him because an extra attack is kind of valuable. It's sort of like a slightly weaker concussion maul, but I don't know, you don't really have to bring it. Truthfully, yeah, I'd probably bring them all over that. For abilities, so they got a few of them. Cyber Stems. Basically, they get a fight on death. It is only on a 4-up, unfortunately, so it is variable. There will be a bunch of times when, like, even though they lost a bunch of units, like, you only get, like, 1 or 2 of them fighting, and even then they barely do any damage, potentially. That said, like, better than nothing helps shore up the point efficiency side of things. Their other ability, though, I really like. So this keys off the grenade launcher. Subterranean explosives. In your shooting phase, after you shot, you choose an enemy unit, excluding monsters or vehicles, that was hit by 1 or more of your attacks. You roll a 4-up, unfortunately, but if you get that 4-up, that enemy unit is shaken, and they subtract 2 from their move, advance, and charge rolls. That can be very powerful. It really sucks it's on a 4-up. It's kind of funny, too, like, other armies just automatically get that, or get on like a 2-up, so it's kind of silly that you only get on a 4-up. Kind of sucks. But when it goes off, yeah, that's very powerful. Movement wins games. And certain armies, so like Mirror Match, knocking their berserkers down to 3-inch moves is going to hurt a lot. Death Guard, that's going to make them want to quit. So I do value that pretty highly, especially when you got the indirect and the blast on it. Like, very good odds that you'll get that. I want to love these guys. Like I said, they are one of my favorite units in the book, just like look and theme-wise, but they're slow melee units. They really aren't that good. They're really flimsy. They're going to die pretty fast. I guess that helps you get tokens, but, yeah, really not too happy with them. I don't even think they have any characters that you can attach to them or anything. Yeah, I want to put them in C, but truthfully, I think they belong in D. I do think they go above Uthar. Maybe they do belong in C. Maybe even, like, there's ways to make them work. If you put them in a transport, I think that'd probably be the way to use them. Maybe they do go up a little higher, but wish they're a lot better. They have decent damage, but that profile, not the best, not the best. Alright, next up we got Pioneers. So these guys are pretty good, I think. Only 105 points for 3 of them, so that's pretty decent. For the profile, you get 12-inch move, T6, 4-up save, and 3 wounds each, so pretty good right there. They do also have 2 objective control each. Like, yeah, they're a small unit, but every little bit helps. For weapons, all of them come stock with the autocannon. So this is pretty decent. It's 24-inch range, 3 attacks, hit on 4s, of course. Strength 7, -1, 2 damage each. So that's sweet that you're getting some multi-damage range out there. I like that a fair bit. You can give one of them a rotary cannon or an ion beamer. Either is viable. The rotary cannon is going to be sustained hits, 24-inch range, 6 attacks, hitting on 4s, strength 6, -1, 1 damage each. So that's a decent amount of hurt that you're going out there. Again, helps clear up screens and whatnot. The other option, Ion Beamer. Sustained hits D3, 18-inch range, only 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, strength 7, -2, 1 damage each. Honestly, I think you can go rotary cannon over that. They do also have shotguns and revolvers, so you can use the shotguns and their main weapon, so that's pretty cool. And then bolt revolvers are kind of crap, but you can use them in melee, so that's okay. They have, like, barely any melee to speak of. Keep these guys out of melee. For their abilities, pretty good. So they got Scouts 9-inch. That is super important on such a slow army. Getting a unit that has a pseudo 21-inch first turn move, very valuable to have. Now, whether you should use that entire movement, probably not. You don't want to get that close to your opponent, but still, that'll help you get on an objective first turn. I like it a decent bit. Their other ability, Outflanking Mag Riders. So this is also pretty good, so the timing is what makes it pretty decent. At the end of your opponent's turn, if this unit is within 6 inches of any battlefield edge and not within engagement range, you can remove them from the battlefield and place them in strategic reserves. The fact that goes off in your opponent's turn, I like that a decent bit. Kind of sucks you have to be within 6 inches of the edge, but it doesn't say wholly within, so you just leave one guy, you just sort of string them out, and that would definitely be like, try to remember that when you're playing these guys. Try to keep them near 6 inches. For war gear, so if you bring the men squad at just 3, you can only bring 2 of them. But if you're in max squad, you can bring all 3 of them. I will say one of them's kind of crap, so it's not that big a deal. The first one, you got Comms Array. If you use a stratagem on them, on a 5-up, you get 1 CP back, so that's okay. You probably want a max squad to use that, but it's still there. The other one's good. Pan Spectral Scanner. Basically, the ranged weapons ignore cover. Fantastic. I went over that earlier. That's like a pseudo +1 AP. And with how common cover is these days, yeah, I like that a fair bit. The last one sucks. The last one's stupid. Rollbar Searchlight. Each time you make an attack versus an enemy unit with the stealth ability, you add 1 to your hit roll. Like, yes, you guys are going to struggle versus armies that have -1 to hit, but not all of them are going to have stealth for that. And also, too, like, that's just so niche. And other armies just get, like a Ridge Runner from GSC. They have a way to just get +1 ballistic skill. Like, it's just one of the many themes that makes you scratch your head, you know. So kind of a dumb war gear. You wouldn't bring that unless you're bringing a max squad, and every now and then, like, hopefully you remember you got it. I do like these guys a lot. The 12-inch move, the 3 wounds, the decent damage output, all that stuff puts them pretty up there. Honestly, I think they're going A+, maybe even S, because that movement is, like, very valuable, and they're fairly resilient. But for now, yeah, I think S or A+ tier. You don't have to bring them, but you probably should. Alright, last up we got, so these are my second favorite unit in the book, I'd say. Einhyr Thunderkin. So these are basically your Devastators, basically your shooting guys. They do have exoframes, so they're like big dudes. T6, fantastic. 3-up save, fantastic. 3 wounds each, fantastic. These guys, I think they are 3 models for 95 points. Let's double check though. Yep, exactly. Or you can bring 6 models for 190. That's probably the route you go. Attach the dude to give them +1 to hit as well. For ranged weapons, you got 3 different options. So by default, they'll have Bolt Cannon. Sustain hits 1, 36-inch range, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, strength 6, -1, 2 damage each. So kind of like a buffed heavy bolter. Not too bad, honestly. Pretty good range as well. And the next one, this is probably the one I'd be tempted to bring. Graviton Blast Cannon. So anti-vehicle 2-up, fantastic. Blast, also fantastic. Only 18-inch range though. D6 attacks, hitting on 4s, strength 5, -2 AP, 2 damage each. So suddenly you got some, like, pretty consistent anti-vehicle that you can bring in your list. Stinks it's only 18-inch range, but these guys will fit in transport. Well, they'll fit in the fortress. They do take up 3 slots each because of their armor, but theoretically you could bring them that way. Otherwise, I think actually what you'd really do is you'd reserve these guys and bring them in turn 2 or 3 when you need them. The last option is going to be Conversion Beamer. So it does have the conversion rule. On a 4-up, you score a critical hit, so that's pretty good. Also get sustain hits D3 on top of that, so potentially you're getting 1 plus D3 attacks. Speaking of, so 24-inch range, only 1 attack normally, strength 7, -1 AP, 3 damage each, so there is some debate on if that's the best one. Like I said, I would probably go for the blast cannons. Kind of rough that it's such short range, because you don't want to get that close to people, but does give you, like, really consistent anti-knight, anti-land raider, anti-any of that sort of stuff, which otherwise you'll kind of struggle with. Again, if you attach the +1 to hit dude, you're hitting on 3s. Not too bad at all. You won't get to take a benefit of the token on top of that, but what can you do? Alright, for their ability, they got Oathbound Cover and Fire. Basically, if you use the Overwatch strat on them, they hit on 5s. I like that a decent bit as well. If somebody comes within range of you, all of a sudden you're lighting them up on a third of your attacks you're going to hit. Not too terrible at all. I like these guys quite a fair bit. Do you bring them every time? Probably. Yeah, I'm not sure if I put them in S tier, but I do think they go pretty high up. Maybe behind the Pioneers. Ooh, you know what? I lie. I really like that anti-tank. I'm going to put him in S tier, to be honest. I like him quite a fair bit. I'm not sure if they really are, like, the most efficient thing ever, but like I said, they're one of my favorite in the book, so I'm going to put them up there. Alright, lastly, we got the vehicles, the transports. So, first up, we got the Sagitaur. This guy's kind of spinny. He's 120 points, but he does bring some stuff you don't normally have access to. So, movement 12, really good. T10, fantastic. 3-up save, pretty good. 9 wounds, so all pretty good profile overall. 3 objective control as well. For his weapons, he's no slouch with his ranged weaponry, so you got a few options. By default, you're going to have the autocannon, so this will be 24-inch range, 6 attacks, strength 7, -1, 2 damage each. Truthfully, though, I'd be tempted to bring the missile launcher. If you bring the missile launcher, you also get the Sagitaur missile launcher, so you kind of get 2 weapons. The L7 missile launcher, just like before, so the focus profile will be 24-inch range, only a single attack, but strength 9, -2, D6 damage, so it kind of gives you some anti-vehicle, anti-monster. And then, on top of that, the Sagitaur missile launcher, 36-inch range, 2 attacks, hit on 4s, of course, strength 12, though, -3 AP, 3 damage each, so that really pops. I like that one quite a bit. The other option, you go with the beam cannon, so sustain hits D3, 24-inch range, 2 attacks, again, strength 12, -3, D6 damage, so you got quite a few options to go with. Again, I go with the missile launcher, though, at least for the most part. He has a little bit of melee. He can run people over with his wheels, which I kind of like. Not too much to write home about, though. Strength 6, no AP, 1 damage. For abilities, he does have Scout 6-inch, so in a sense, you'll have an 18-inch first turn move. Not too shabby, especially with such a slow army. And then for his ability, Blistering Advance. Basically, troops can still disembark even after this model advances. Again, plays into the whole needing that movement. That said, like, he doesn't have any assault weapons, so I really don't think you want to do that too often. You're giving up a boatload of shooting on your 120-point model. Not really something you're going to use that often. I wish it had more of the, like, the reroll hits after you disembark, or reroll wounds after you disembark. I'm not sure if I mentioned it earlier too, but this army has no way to reroll hits, like, at all. So this would have been a great unit to put that on. He does also sort of have one more ability. He can combat squad the Hearthguard warriors. So I think that is like a valid strategy. I'm pretty sure I mentioned it with the warriors. Some people are going to use them as like sacrificial lambs. I do think that's a viable strategy. Only 6 model transport capacity, and he can only transport the warriors. He can't fit exo armor or exo frame models, so not the highest capacity. He also doesn't have the fire imports, which is kind of lame. So really, I don't like that price one bit. I do think like honestly, you almost just bring him for that combat squad. His weaponry's like not terrible either. He will put a little bit of damage out there. So honestly, I'll put him. I hate that price a lot. I really hate 120 points. So, yeah, I'll put him top of C tier. Like, you probably consider bringing him if you're bringing warriors, but you kind of hate doing it. And lastly, we got the Hekaton Land Fortress. So, the big boy. Alright, this is actually a pretty good model. Only 245 points, so pretty fair price for what you're getting. 10-inch move, not bad. T12, fantastic. 2-up save, also fantastic. 16 wounds, great. He's also got 5 objective control, so pretty good profile right there. For weapons, you got a bunch to choose from. He comes with 2 autocannons, so 24-inch range. When you combine the 2, it's going to be 12 attacks, strength 7, -1, 2 damage each, so pretty fair amount of multi-damage going out. This is a big vehicle with, you know, heavy weapons on it. I do wish you hit on 3s instead of 4s, but I can kind of see why they didn't. Again, you'll usually have the token for the targets you're shooting at, so hopefully you're hitting on 3s most of the time. For his other weapons, like I said, you got a bunch of choices. It used to be you'd always go heavy magna rail cannon. Now I'm not so sure. So it is dev wounds and heavy, which does kind of help. 30-inch range, not too bad, but only a single shot. Normally hitting on 4s. Strength 18, which is great. -4 AP, again great. D6 plus 6 damage, so a boatload of damage if you hit. That's the issue. Only a single attack, so you sort of got 50-50 chance before you toss on the +1 to hit. I don't really like that, not on a 245 point unit. For other options, you got like Conversion Beamer. I actually like this one a fair bit. So he has that same conversion rule. So 4-ups to hit or crit hits, sustain hits D3. So you got decent chance of getting extra hits on there. 24-inch range, 2 attacks normally, strength 10, -2 AP, 4 damage each. So again, I do like that a fair bit. You can also do the Ion Cannon, so 24-inch range, D6 plus 3 attacks, strength 9, -2, 2 damage each. That might be the best one to choose as well. Yeah, dude, this guy tosses out a bunch of multi-damage attacks, so I do think he's, like, very valuable in your army. That toughness profile is fantastic as well. He also comes with fire support, so in your shooting phase, if a unit has disembarked previously, they get to reroll all their wounds, so that plays into what I was saying I wish the Sagitaur had. That is pretty valuable. Again, helps you get your point efficiency. This guy can carry 12 models as well. He can also carry Exo Armor, who take up the space of 2, or Exo Frame, who take up the space of 3. That kind of stinks. You got to bring like a men's squad for the Exo Frame, but the Exo Armor, you can bring an okay amount. Again, no firing ports, kind of lame, but what can you do? Deadly Demise, D6, and whatever. Now for war gear, so normally comes with pan spectral scanner. I would keep this. Again, this ignores cover. I mentioned that before, how valuable that is. As you play the game more, you see that, like, yeah, man, it's almost always a +1 AP with how common the cover is. That said, you could trade it out for the Hekaton Warhead, which is like a one-use missile. It's blast, indirect fire, 36-inch range, d6 plus 3 attacks, strength 7, -2, 2 damage each. So again, you're getting more multi-damage out there. That said, I think the scanner is more valuable overall. Keep it the entire game, so if you get 5 turns worth of shooting out of this guy, definitely get your points worth with that one. I like this guy a lot. I do think if you're playing Votann, you should bring at least one of these, maybe even 2 of them. So yeah, I'm going to put an S tier. As for where they go in S tier, I think they're just mid S tier. Yeah, like you bring them, you bring pretty much all of these. So I like them a fair bit. Oof, alright, so that's the review. Definitely a few things these guys struggle with. I do anticipate that GW will fix them up with time. I don't know if they'll change too many abilities, but point cuts should go a long ways in helping these guys out. For now, you're going to have a rough time at tournaments. Like, don't think you'll lose every single game, but, like, probably not going to win the tournament. It does suck, man. Like I said, you compare them to other armies, and it's almost like it's a different edition. I almost feel like GW, like, this might have been, like, the very first index they wrote, so they didn't really know, like, the power levels they're going to go with in 10th. I don't know, like, otherwise, I don't really know how they dropped the ball so much, to be honest. It's a cool army, though. I do think, too, with time, they'll just get more units, so the army will expand eventually. So keep your eyes on them. They're definitely not, like, dead in the water, at least not for the entire edition. Knowing GW, they'll, like, overcorrect, and they'll be the most OP faction for, like, 6 months. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the review. As always, let me know if you got any questions or if I missed anything important. If you guys enjoy the content, like, do consider liking and subscribing. It genuinely, like, means a lot to me. Kind of gives me the drive to keep going. Anytime I come home, I always check my YouTube as soon as I get home. I'm always happy to see, like, all the nice comments and all the questions that people are shooting out there. So I do appreciate you guys. Anyways, hope this was entertaining. Good luck out there, guys, and have a great rest of your night.